Have you ever really asked yourself why you started stacking? What is it about silver and gold that makes you different than other people? Why aren't you putting your money into stocks? Why aren't you putting your money into crypto? Maybe you are. Maybe you're putting, some of your money into other growth oriented things, but you like the idea of, metals. The interesting thing though about silver stackers, gold stackers, people who look for, physical assets, quote unquote, versus, the paper products such as stocks or, electronic things like crypto. Think about the difference though. Think about the difference in the type of person, because when we look at trying to grow your money, in the end, at the end of the day, it all comes back to money, right? As with everything in life, everything has to do with money. But think about the type of person that puts their money into something like this versus the type of person that puts their money into, stocks or even cryptocurrency. It's a huge difference. It's a huge difference in the type of person. And I ask myself, what really drives stackers? Now, first, something jumps out at me about stackers in general. I mean, again, I'm a stacker, so when I say these things, I'm including myself in, these generalizations. But think about the stacker mentality. Think about what it is that you're really looking for, especially, given all the mantras in stacking that, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. If, I want something physical, I want, something outside of the system, etc., etc. Now, metals, in general, when you think about the type of person that buys metals, they're not looking for, to double it up. They're not looking to, have the explosive growth. There's more of the fear narrative. There's more of the, I want to protect something. I want to protect the value that's here. I want to have something that's going to be worth some type of value at the end, if everything comes crumbling down. Now, take that versus your average person who invests in stocks, or even, the extreme would be like cryptocurrency. The stocks, they're a traditional way of, growing your money. They're something that, trillions of dollars in the markets, whether it's bonds or stocks. And again, the bond market's much larger than the stock market, which again, most people don't know. The debt markets dwarf the stock market, but that's another conversation. The interesting part with the stocking community is, again, if you had to guess what type of person, would be stocking metals, especially over a period of time. That is the key. We're not talking about the person who, watched a YouTube video and thought, oh, this is a good time to make some money on metals. No, we're talking about the person who's been doing this for years and years and years. The case could be made that those are fearful people. There's a fear play there. There's something you're afraid of, something that, you're preparing for that may or may not ever come to pass. But that's very different than, someone who's buying stocks, who's looking at, hey, this is going to grow over time. I'm vested in the status quo. I'm vested in the system staying as is. Have you ever looked at your stock that way? Have you ever thought about, what it means to be, putting that money into metals as a fear play? Have you ever looked at it like that? Now, contrast that with someone who's buying crypto. Now, the thing with crypto is, with a lot of them, especially like, Bitcoin, Ethereum, things like that, the days to get into the long speculative would have been, 2010, 2011, where, you could have thrown in, a nominal amount of money, much less than what's sitting right here, and been a millionaire, right? The key is multi-millionaire, probably. And the key is, what kind of person does that? Does that strike you as the fearful person? Or the other end of the spectrum, which would be just completely ridiculously optimistic and speculative, just throwing money at stuff to see what sticks? Is that the type of person that buys into cryptocurrency and things like that? People who use the normal everyday stuff, in the middle, the stocks, the bonds, that kind of stuff, mutual funds, ETFs, all that, good stuff. That's kind of where everybody fits. And so by stacking, are you on one end of the spectrum or the other? Now, again, a lot of the stacking community right now, probably yourself, you're sitting there thinking, well, of course, Chris, I have my stocks and I have, my retirement account, but, I put my money into... I understand. We all use the mediums that are available to us. I'm saying, my question is, if you had the ability to put your, 401k directly into physical silver, you'd probably do that too, for a lot of stackers, if you even have one. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you don't have those other things. I'm saying, just by definition, by nature, if this was available to you to have in those mediums, you'd use it. Unfortunately or fortunately, it's not. Now, the good thing about that is by default, that gives you diversification of your assets, but not only that, again, diversification of your strategy in general, which is good. But the thing is, like, think about these things, think about the context of what it is to be putting, money into something like this. People, stackers, I would say across the board, not every stacker, but many of them don't realize the cost of putting your money into this, the heavy cost. It's not just one thing. Now, we focus on, price, premium, spot price, keeping up, all of these different things. Again, that, metals keep up with inflation. Where else do you pay such a heavy premium up front as you do with metals? Maybe real estate, I guess. But, real estate seems like a much better gamble than obviously metals. But here's, again, with metals, there's so many hidden hands. For example, in metals, when you're looking at potentially trading up, right? People ask all the time, like, should I be buying gold? Should I be buying silver? Where should my money be going? And then, at what point do I switch? What point do I trade up to, from silver to gold? That's a great question, right? Obviously, that's going to depend on your own situation, et cetera, et cetera. But the bigger thing at play is, let's say you do that. Let's say you start like most stackers and you're buying silver. Again, very common, right? That's probably how 99% of, stackers do it in general. When you go to trade up, you're not just trading the value of these, whatever they are at that time. Let's say you go to the coin shop, you have what's right here, and you go to trade it for, whatever its value is in gold. Well, there's two things going on there. First, again, who knows what price. Let's say you get spot or $1 over per ounce for whatever's right here, and that would be completely reasonable, given how things work at the coin shop. They're not there to scalp you, but they're also not, there to be your charity. But secondly, here's again the hidden hand. You paid a premium on each of these ounces, whatever it was, 20%, 30%, whatever it was at the time. Pre-pandemic, obviously, premiums were much lower. But that's all gone. That's all gone once you go and trade up to, gold. So you have to factor that into what's going on over there. The other thing is with price risk, you see metals drop 10%, 15%, short period of time. Stackers are like, oh, good, I'll just buy more. But yet if the same thing happens in the stock market or to crypto, they're like, haha, look, you lost so much money, haha, you suckers, papered. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. Like, do you not understand that just because you can hold this, if it loses value, it loses value. It doesn't matter. Yes, at the end of the day, you have a very expensive paperweight, but what does that do for you? It does nothing. It is a crazy world, but people forget these things on the everyday basis. And like I said, this is what really you have to contemplate when you become a stacker, because these things get lost in the fold. Now, for me, I'm pretty lucky in general, as you know, but also recently I won the Silver Stackers giveaway and got myself a nice little addition to my stack. So I wanted to show that. So forgive me, I was a little overzealous by opening this. And one T's GAW 10th ounce maple, 2003. It's a good year, good vintage. Nice looking piece, of course, and always a welcome addition to add some gold to the stack. So very happy about that. Thank you again, T. Very generous of you and your sponsors. I won that on one of T's sponsored videos where the sponsor, there was a paid ad which I watched and commented on and was lucky enough to win it. Thank you as well to one of my commenters who actually let me know that I won, because I didn't see T Short announcing the winner, and one of you who has a Chicago Bulls logo as your avatar or something similar was the one who told me that I won. So thank you to you, much appreciated. I do appreciate that. T, you were supposed to reach out to me. Just kidding. But again, all of these different things with precious metals, it's very interesting to me, very interesting to think about what really drives a stacker versus a normal investor. Their motives for getting into it are very different. Secondly, I've noticed recently, I always laugh when you hear the financial gurus talking about, beware, this is coming, da, 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 da. And it just reminds me of Scooby-Doo, that the monster's always, the good guy. And like you hear people like Jamie Dimon, like there's a lot of risk in the market, and things of blah. These people are consistently wrong. The hedge fund managers, the big bank CEOs, blah, blah, blah. But almost to the point where it's kind of nefarious. Like, you have to ask yourself, like, do they purposely like mislead the public so that they can take advantage of it? I mean, there's got to be examples of that out there, right? But think about that. Like, it's so crazy. Like, a guy like Jamie Dimon, let me ask you, like, do you think realistically, like, any of these rich billionaires, multi-millionaires, do you think that they would let the system collapse? Now, some of you are saying they don't have any control. I beg to differ. These guys, in general, the banks and corporations run this country, and for better or for worse, the U.S. kind of dictates what goes on in a lot of the world. Again, for better or for worse, whether we like to admit it or not. These guys, you have to ask yourself, particularly when you're thinking about metals versus, again, the people who invest in stocks and bonds, and those people constantly react from emotion, selling out at the bottom because they're scared, and they make terrible decisions on investment, which is why, for a lot of people, it's better if you don't do it yourself. Use one of these companies that does it. Yes, they're going to charge you a fee, but the reality is, the bottom line is they'll probably do better than what you could do yourself. It's the truth. But secondly, the big thing with like these investment gurus and like the markets in general, the big boys have a vested interest in keeping the system the status quo. They're not gonna, you think that, Jamie Dimon's telling me that the world's gonna crash so that I can go buy gold and silver and protect myself, and then, he's gonna tell me how great, he feels for me when everything comes crashing down and he's no longer a billionaire? And now the person who's in power is whoever had the most weapons and, food and... No, these people are not gonna let that happen. There's a reason that they are where they are, and once they get there, I mean, it is what it is. The only thing they don't want to lose is that power, that money, that position. They're not going to let that happen. It is a crazy world, like when you think about these things, but it is something you have to think about. And this is something that, again, is lost on much of the stacking community. There's so many like naysayers, like, oh, it's going to come crashing down. People have been saying that since the day America was founded. And here we are. Same old. In fact, just getting more and more of a tighter grip on, what it is the world, has going on. The other part is, like, you think about, for example, things like the media. People complain, oh, the fake news. The reality is there's always been the fake news, particularly after the, what was it called? I think it was Clinton's administration that repealed it. It was either Clinton or Bush, like the Fair Reporting Act or... something like that, where before that, actual news, if you were going to call your program news, it had to actually, report factual stuff, where you could get sued for that. And then, when they repealed that law, it basically became entertainment, where they could say whatever the hell they want without repercussion. Now, one thing I will say is that it's funny that in the world we live in, now look at Fox and the, Fox News and the whole, what was the company that they sued them, the software company for the voting machines, whatever. But it's funny that, the main enforcement mechanism of like truth at the end of the day is just the free market, another company saying, hey, you slandered us and we're going to sue you for it. That's pretty interesting. And it's not about politics or anything like that, but it's just the fact that, it's not the government doing it. It's, one corporation suing another corporation because at the end of the day, they, were lying. It is what it is. And that could be any corporation. It could be for any reason. But it's just interesting that the actual market sorts that out versus the government. And that's kind of how it should be, right? I mean, with a lot of different things. But again, in the place that we are, in the time that we live in, especially with, things going on like, Israel and Gaza, that's been going on for, again, tale as old as time. But, you read so many different things and you hear about, what the origins were. it's just one of those things that people are so polarized for good reason on both sides. And again, the terrorist attack is, there's no one condones that kind of thing, right? We know how we reacted after 9/11. Look at us now. Did that make us a better, did anything about how we reacted to 9/11 make us safer or make us a better country? Did it make us more free? Do you feel safer? I don't, and I don't know anyone who does. So that's the key, is like anything like that, no one condones the actions of terrorists. Absolutely. It's a damn shame. And you watch some of the videos of what went on, it is crazy. It's like horrific, something out of like a movie. That's, people could be so brutal to each other. But I mean, again, the thing is that you look at how, the reactions to stuff like that, and you look at us, how we reacted to that. I mean, everyone watched, the entire world watched 9/11 unfold, like live in real time. So we know what ended up happening. How many lives and how much treasure did we sacrifice to, fight terrorism? And again, are we safer now? No. But these are the things. This is the world that we live in. It's not going to change. There's not going to be one catalyst where all of a sudden, everything is different. Could it happen? Absolutely. But that's the thing with stacking. I feel like many stackers hold their breath on a daily basis, waiting for that day to come. Well, great. How long did your grandpa hold their breath? How long did your dad hold their breath? How long are you willing to hold your breath? Your entire life to see this kind of stuff skyrocket? Because it's not. It is not. It is not going to skyrocket. We must understand that, there may be little blips here and there, but if you're not selling, which again, the stacking community does not sell their stack. They don't sell. So it doesn't matter if it went to $100 an ounce, they would just sit there and say, like, I'm not selling. See, I was right. It skyrocketed. It moonshotted. And then it'd go right back down and they'd say, well, I'm just going to buy more. That is the stacking world. So if you're stacking for, I'm going to double it up, or, I'm going to make money taking advantage of the gold-silver ratio, good luck with that. Good luck with that. So the people who do that and are able to do it successfully, few and far between, particularly because of the premiums. I mean, that is really the big differentiator between something like stocks, where there's no fee to trade. You can double it up, sell, wait for it to go back down, and keep playing that game. With metals, it doesn't work that way. And again, even if you were trying to take advantage of spot price going up and down, again, most of the stocking community would tell you, don't use ETFs, don't use, SLV or GLD, paper silvers and, real metals. Okay, well then you don't like money. I mean, that's the end all to be all. Again, stackers would be like, no, I don't like money. I don't like fiat currency. I like real value. And this goes back to my main point. What is it to be a stacker? Who are these people that are stackers? In the end, it always comes back to some type of a fear narrative. I'm afraid that the value is going to be taken away. I'm afraid that, my dollar is going to lose value. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. What does that cost you? What is the real cost of being afraid? That's the real question you need to ask as a stacker.